and then it will be over. So recording can be started within. Good afternoon to all of you, and today we are going to discuss the morphology of the rice plant. Most of the time we talk about botany of a plant. So in fact, we will see the botany, major botany part of the rice plant. And I must acknowledge that most of the data in this and the picture that you are going to see in this presentation have been borrowed from International Rice Research Institute, Philippines. And I must thank you to International Rice Research Institute and Dr. S.K. Dedatta and Yoshida. Most of the things have been covered from three sources. So basically, we are going to study the external appearance of different parts of the rice plant. Different parts means starting from seed, roots, your come or stem, leaves, panicle, inflorescence, spikelets, and then whatever it is, seedling. So we'll see the external appearance, which is also known as morphology. And also we will try to understand some terminology related to rice plant. So we will see the morphology or external appearance of germinating seed, then seedling, tiller, come, C-U-L-M, come is the stem of rice, leaf, panicle is the inflorescence of rice, and spikelet, floret. Floret is enclosed in the spikelet. So spikelet contains floret, and then floret contain flower, floret contain flower, and then rice grain. Starting with germinating seed, so you can see it depends upon the circumstances or upon the environment of the rice where you are germinating it. Whether you are germinating it in the soil or germinating in water, germinating in dark or germinating in light. So which part of the seed will come first during germination, it will be decided by the condition in which seed has been kept. In some cases, coleorrhiza will come out first. In other cases, coleoptile will come early, then the coleorrhiza. In some cases, coleorrhiza comes first, then coleoptile. So seed germinating in well-drained and well-aerated soil means it is kind of dark, kind of soil. Coleorrhiza covering and closing the radical primary root protrudes first, means coleorrhiza will come first when you put the seed in soil, that is in dark. Then shortly after the coleorrhiza appears, the radical or primary root breaks through the covering. This coleorrhiza is having radical, and which is extension from the coleorrhiza. This coleorrhiza will give us the radical, the root part. Then two or more sparsely branched seminal roots will follow. This will give you some seminal root. These are very temporary root, and they eventually die and are replaced by secondary adventitious roots. Means first you have seen that coleorrhiza gave birth to the radical, and radical gave birth to the seminal roots, and seminal roots will be destroyed, and then the lower part of the stem, you can say, will give you secondary adventitious roots, or lower part of the seedling will give you secondary adventitious roots. Now what happens when seed germinates in water? Seed germinating in water, coleoptile will come first. Note the radical. So coleoptile covering and closing young shoot ahead of coleorrhiza. Look, a tapered cylinder. You can see in the picture, this is coleoptile, which look like now you see germinating seed. It is actually the magnified picture. It is magnified picture made by hand, and it is there in S.K. Dedatta book. So you can see the seed is giving you radical and also the shoot part. And in between the coleoptile and seed, there is one zone which is mesocotyle. So mesocotyle part is important. This mesocotyle, particularly when seed is germinating in the soil, and then this mesocotyle part thrust the coleoptile out of soil. So then the seed germination starts in soil. And you can see the first internode here. After the coleoptile, you will see first internode, then second internode, and so on. And then you can see coleoptile here, and you can also see the first leaf. First leaf here. Coleoptile is not a leaf here. First leaf will come from the seedling, and you can see then second leaf. So first leaf of rice plant is bladeless. There is no blade in this leaf. Now you see seedling further. You can see the mesocotyle on the left side. Mesocotyle part, it is below the coleoptile. So you can see mesocotyle pushing the coleoptile above the soil surface. So it is important for emergence. Mesocotyle means basal portion of the coleoptile elongates when the seed germinates in soil and in darkness. It pushes the coleoptile above the soil surface. Next, right picture, first and second seedling leaf. The first seedling leaf, primary leaf, emerges from the growing seed. It is green and shaped like a cylinder. It has no blade. So no blade means it is not a complete leaf, the first leaf. The second leaf is a complete leaf which has leaf blade as well as leaf sheath. You can see primary leaf in this picture and also secondary leaf, and you can also see some adventitious roots. Adventitious roots also started coming up in the seedling. Now see the tiller. Suppose your germination is complete and seedling has emerged. Now what are different parts of the seedling? So seedling is the young plant, seedling is the young plant of rice. So in this case, roots are seen, come is seen, and leaves. So you can see there are 4 to 5 leaves, and some very minute number of roots are also there, and come is there. So the seedling grows, developed branched tillers. So as it will grow, it will develop into tillers. Different parts are roots, come, and leaves. You can see in the picture. And some mature roots, fibrous, mature roots are fibrous. And then these are adventitious roots and produce rootless also. All roots have root here. So there may be two kind of matured roots. In this case, one is secondary adventitious roots, which are mostly in the grown-up plants. They are not in seedlings. They are mostly in grown-up plants. When the roots come from the aerial part, aerial nodes of the plant, they are the secondary roots comes from the base of the plant. So they come from the nodes of the plant. Internode part, you have a node. So from there, these adventitious root originate. And another kind of root is adventitious prop root. Prop roots means they are for the support. So adventitious prop roots also come exceptionally in tall varieties, and they are aerial roots. You can see tillering pattern in rice, quite interesting. See this picture, and in this picture, see number 1. Number 1 is mentioned for the main come. Main come means your main plant or primary tiller, or first tiller or mother tiller. Mother plant is the main come in the center part. It is numbered as 1. Then primary tiller will come from the mother plant in alternate fashion. You can see number 2 is coming, then number 3 on the left side, number 4, number 5, number 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. It depends upon variety and the soil fertility condition and also climatic condition, how many tillers will be produced by one seedling or one mother plant. So in this case, by now you understand that primary tillers are born on the main come or first tiller or mother plant, and then they are in the alternate fashion. Now you go to the secondary tiller. This secondary tiller originates from the main tiller. The solid line, the thick line you can see, and it is giving secondary tiller. So you can see the secondary tiller are coming from primary tillers again in alternative way. One on the right side, other on the left side. And from secondary tiller, you can see the dotted tillers. They are tertiary tillers. They also come in alternate arrangement. So you can see this kind of tilling happens in rice. Main come will give you primary tillers, primary tiller will give you secondary tiller and tertiary tiller. According to this, you can decide the age also. Main come is the oldest one, and then primary tillers, and then secondary tiller, and then tertiary tiller will be the youngest one, who was formed at the last. Okay, so this is how their aging can be counted. Age can be counted. Now you can see secondary adventitious roots. They have come up from the nodes, basal portion of the stem. So secondary adventitious roots produced from the underground nodes of the young tillers. So actually part of the stem is there inside the soil, which is not visible to us. So that region of the stem having nodes and internodes, those nodes and internodes are so close that cannot be seen by naked eyes, but they are there. So those kind of nodes which are part of the stem but staying in soil will make your adventitious roots inside the soil. So as the plant grows, coarse adventitious probe roots often form above the soil surface in holes from the nodes of the come. So this is about secondary adventitious roots, and these kind of roots are quite common in deep water rice. Rice which is growing in deep water will produce adventitious probe roots. The purpose of producing adventitious roots is to absorb oxygen in the water and also absorb nutrients and water as well. So these roots do the job of nutrient absorption in case of deep water rice. Now the same, you can see parts of a primary tiller, just we have seen, and different parts are adventitious roots. The leaf sheath, you can see it is covering the come or the stem. See the internode, the distance between two nodes is internode. You see the secondary tiller will come from the primary tiller, and leaf sheath you can see, and on the left side you can see the cross section of the come, where you can see internode part, leaf sheath, outer most layer. Sheath pulvinus is the swelling, kind of swelling below the on the base of the sheath. Then nodal septum, which is separating two internodes, and then internode. So you just try to see the picture on the top right corner. See the leaf sheath, leaf blade, ligule, and auricle are the quite unique, quite is a good structure which are unique to rice. And you see the collar region and leaf sheath. I will explain you all this again, maybe in subsequent slides, so that everything is clear to you. Now see the come. Come is the stem. It has internodes. You can see very clearly internodes, and nodes also. Nodes. You between two internodes you find a kind of swelling there, which is nodal part, and also adventitious roots. So the come is a jointed stem of the rice, is made up of a series of nodes and internodes. On the right side, you can see young and mature internodes. They are visible, and young internodes are very smooth and solid. When they are young, the whole internode is smooth and solid. Then it starts growing and maturing. Then it becomes hollow and finely grooved. Generally, internodes increase in length from the lower to the upper portion. Means the internodes which are on the lower part are shorter in length, and the internodes which are on the young part or on the top are generally longer in length. They are long. Means from top to down, if you count, if you see the length of the internodes, so topmost internode has longest length, and then it decreases slowly, and in the end, it becomes very small, internode length. Now you can see this picture. This tells you about the come node and internode of the rice plant. So you can see on the x-axis you have number of internode. Which internode we are talking about? So you can see length of the internode on the y-axis. So go to the right extreme of the picture and see one is written on the x-axis, and beside it there is panicle. So the first internode is the longest one, and remember this is from the top, and it is about say 35 centimeter in length in this case. and see the length of the panicle. Length of the panicle is smaller than the first internode. This point must be seen by you. That second internode is smaller in length than the first, followed by third, fourth, and fifth is very small. Fifth is maybe just 1 centimeter or less than 1 centimeter. Now see the 6 to 15. So 6 to 15 number of internodes they are just in say 1 centimeter, 1.5 centimeter length. So 1.5 centimeter length, and you can accommodate 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. At least 10. 10 internodes are there in very small length of the internode, length. So you can see, so this is actually basal part. These internodes are in the basal part where you cannot separate internodes. And this is the region which will give you tillers. This is the region which will give you adventitious roots, etc. in rice. So you can see the leaf node and bud. Node, what is node? Node is a solid portion of the culm, bears a leaf and a bud. So node will bear a leaf and a bud, and it is between the two internodes. So bud is attached to the upper portion of the node and is enclosed by the leaf sheath. Leaf sheath, it is covered by the leaf sheath, the base of the leaf sheath. The bud may give rise to a leaf or a tiller, depending upon the requirement. If it is inside the soil, it will give you tiller. If it is above, it will give you leaf. Early tillers arise from main culm in alternate pattern. You have seen tillers are born in alternative pattern, and primary tillers originate from the lowermost nodes and give rise to the secondary tillers. And secondary tillers produce tertiary tiller. This you have seen. Now you can see secondary tillers and tertiary tillers. It becomes very difficult to make a distinction at this stage, which one is tertiary or which one is secondary. Even sometimes you can not find out the mother plant, which one is the mother plant, because many primary tillers will look like mother plant. Then leaf, see the morphology of the leaf. So the node or nodal region of the culm will bear a leaf, borne externally, alternatively on the culm in opposite direction. This is interesting. Like tiller, the leaves also borne in alternative fashion and in opposite direction. One leaf is produced at each node. One node will give only one leaf. Variety differ in the number of leaves produced. Means number of leaves will vary from one variety to another variety. Can anyone tell me the number of leaves that are produced by rice plant? Please come forward and give me answer. Hello? Is there someone listening to me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
How many leaves do you expect?
More than that, sir.
How much? How many?
More than 100, sir.
More than 100. Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
How many leaves you expect rice plant to produce? Have you seen rice plant?
Yes,
How many of you have not seen rice plant in pot or field or in pictures? I think everyone must have seen it. So how many leaves in one plant of one tiller? Any guess?
350, sir.
350. There are too many, friend. Okay. So just I wanted to gauge your general knowledge. So actually there are 15 to 20 leaves, not 200 or 100 or 350. There are only 15 to 20 leaves on the rice plant. And variety varies. So in some variety, it may be say 15 or 14. In some, it may be 20, 22, 18, 19, 15, something in this range, but never 30 or 40. They are up to 22 or 23. on an average 15 to 20. Leaf number is very much fixed with the varieties. Leaf number, leaf size, leaf color, most of the things, characters are largely governed by genetics or varieties. So topmost leaf
Sir?
below the, yes?
Sir, every tiller 25 tiller is effective tiller, na? Each plant.
No. They may not be effective tillers. All may not be effective tillers, but I'm just telling about the leaves, not the tillers. So first thing is your answer is like this. The tiller number, normally one seedling or at one hill you will get 8 to 10 tillers in varieties. In hybrids you can get 14, 15 tillers. If you grow rice by a system of intensification, rice intensification, then you can get 20 to 25 tillers per plant. It is like this. And so far leaves are concerned, we are talking about number of leaves. So number of leaves are normally 15 to 20 is the range, mean of the number of leaves, but they vary with the varieties. Is it clear now, or anything else you want to ask? Please feel free. Don't get shy. Don't think that. Yes.
Wheat have one tiller. Wheat have 6 nodes. So suppose in wheat rice have, I know that 6 nodes, and in rice there may be 6 or 4 nodes. Is there?
There may be as many nodes as many internodes. It depends upon number of internodes, you know. So
each nodes having one leaf, if the more than 25.
Pardon? It is not necessary that all the nodes will produce the tiller. It is never related to it. Depends upon the potential or genetics of the variety. First thing is genetic potential, means how many tillers it can produce and support. So they are quite unique to the varieties.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So topmost leaf below the panicle is flag leaf, you know. The topmost leaf is flag leaf. The flag leaf contributes largely to the filling of the grains because it supplies photosynthetic products. I think you know this knowledge. And it is very well said that after the fertilization or pollination, flag leaf contributes roughly 50% carbohydrates of food to the developing grains. Now you see the leaf has two parts. One is leaf sheath. Most of the leaf sheath covers the culm, and very small portion is open. And then blade. So the leaf sheath and leaf blade are continuous. They are attached to each other. Now you see a circular collar joins the leaf blade and the leaf sheath. You see this collar region, the circular. It is circular in nature and somewhat different in color. So this part is known as collar on the node. And the leaf sheath is wrapped around the culm above the node, And you see two quite prominent structures here. One is ligule and other is auricle. So which one is ligule and which one is auricle in this structure on the left side? Please answer.
The tongue-like structure is the ligule and another is auricle.
See, one is white in color and there are 2 in number. Other is green in color and there are also 2 in number. So
why is ligule and green is the auricle?
Correct. Very correct. So you can see this bilobed. There are 2 lobes in the ligule, and which is a papery or membranous structure. And you see on the other two which have some hairy kind of structure. These are 2 appendages which are called as auricles. And auricles are 2 in numbers, and they are unique to rice only. Most of the grassy weeds which are found in the rice fields, they do not have this ligule and auricle. So because of ligule and auricle, people can easily recognize or identify the rice seedling and grass seedling. Because in the early stages, till you get the panicle, it is very difficult to distinguish grassy weeds and rice plant, particularly early stage. So these 2 structures are used to identify a rice plant. You can see sheath pulvinus is another terminology. Yes.
Sir, if ligule and auricle has any significance in rice life?
Yeah, please repeat. Please repeat and be slow. It is, we are sitting 300 miles away. Yeah.
Is there any kind of significance of ligule and auricle in rice morphology?
See, they are not involved in any activity. They are not involved in. They're just like vestigial appendages. Means they do not have practically any use, except that you can identify the rice plant with the weeds. That is what I know, but other roles are not known to me. And I also believe that they are not playing any role here. These appendages, or if you know, you can tell me, but I don't have idea about it. Do you have any idea about it?
No, sir.
Okay, but I will try to find answer why they are there. Naturally, nature has made everything useful, so it must be related somehow. It must be related why there is need to have this organ. So I will try to find out answer. But till now, I believe that they don't have any use in rice. So definitely, I will answer you later, maybe after a few days. So good question. Thank you very much. And likewise, I encourage, if you have anything more in your mind, you can discuss. I always prefer discussion, interaction, and so on. And believe me, it has nothing to do with your marks. You will get full marks or marks you deserve. And this will not come into picture that X student has argued, put his views, and then I will be angry at you. It is not like this. We are very much friends in teaching and interacting, because I also learn from you. So there is no.
Auricle can.
Pardon? Yes.
Auricle can hold the leaf sheath tight with the culm.
Okay. Good. Yeah, it is possible. Very right. So even you see awns, there are sometimes awns, 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 you understand? Some varieties of rice have awns and some do not have. So can you tell me that why these awns are there and what kind of roles are being played by awn, AWN awn? They're just like, kanta, they're very piercing kind of thing on the top of the seed, rice seed. So do you have any
Yes,
idea
sir.
about?
Sir, ants also contribute in photosynthesis to the grains up to 12%, and also provide support in the drought situation.
Good, very good. So any other addition to his answer? You are correct. But I want to add 2-3 more points to it. One is
Words or other.
see that you have come to the point. So the first thing is that it will discourage the birds to do the damage to the rice grain, because when the bird will visit these kind of seed, then it may pierce the bird. One thing, but other way around. See, other way around. Some scientists say that the dispersal of the seed will become easy, because with the help of this the seed can easily stick to the animals. Those animals or birds which are visiting the rice field, and they are touching the panicle or they are nearby panicle. So that way the seed can be attached to their body and maybe survival mechanism for certain rice varieties. So it may be helping one species or variety to conserve itself, to propagate itself. So there are many views on this role of awns. But what is told by him is very much right, that it contributes to the photosynthesis. So we continue. Now you see sheath pulvinus, swelling at the base of leaf. You are seeing in the picture. You can see here, this is known as sheath pulvinus. The swelling on the nodal region is sheath pulvinus, sometimes incorrectly referred to as the node. Sometimes people think that this is the node. No, this is not the node. This is the sheath pulvinus. So you can see different varieties with varying blade characteristics. So blade characteristics means the length of the blade, the width of the blade, or maybe your color, sometimes color and length and so on. So varieties differ in blade length, width, thickness, area, shape, color, angle, and pubescence. So maybe this sheath blade is used to identify varieties or varietal character. Now, leaves also have some venation. Parallel veins are there on the upper surface. Many parallel veins on the upper surface. Underside of the leaf blade is smooth with a prominent ridge in the middle, the midrib on the back side. See auricle and ligule, they are clear here. So paired ear-like appendages on either side of the base of the blade. These are auricles, and ligule are papery membrane inside juncture between the leaf sheath and the blade. They are unique also, similar to leaf. Auricles and ligules are also unique in length, color, and shape of the ligule differ in varieties. So varietal identification also, these auricle and ligule can be used. Now you can distinguish between grassy weeds and rice plant. I have already told you. Now you see the leaf number. Leaf number you can see in one variety it is 14. In IR8 it was 14. In PETA it was 21. And in BP176 it is 23. So on an average, if we take average, it is 15 to 20 number of leaves per plant in rice. So this is how leaf number varies. Now see the length of the leaves. Length of the leaves means leaf is made up of two parts. One is leaf sheath and other is leaf blade. So you may get confused that which part of the leaf is longer and which part is smaller. Is it leaf sheath which is longer, or is it leaf blade which is longer? So it actually depends upon the number of leaf from the top. So in this case, leaf number on the x-axis, and on y-axis it is the leaf length. So leaf number, you see the last leaf, number 17. In number 17, you see it is not the longest leaf. The topmost leaf is not the longest leaf. Number 2 leaf is not the longest leaf, but the third one from the top, that is 15th leaf, is the longest one. But minor difference in the length of 17, 16, and 15, and even 14. So they are almost similar length, but if you want to check the difference, so the third leaf from the top is the longest leaf. So this is one point we can see from this picture. Other point is see the length of sheath and blade in number 17. So if I see it carefully, then leaf blade is longer than the leaf sheath. In the next 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, and you can see up to 6, up to 5, or 4, or 3. Up to 3, you can see the leaf blade is longer than the leaf sheath, starting from 17 to number 3. But you see the number 2 leaf. Number 2 leaf, you have more leaf sheath length than the leaf blade length. And also see in number 1, there is no leaf blade. No leaf blade in number 1, only sheath is there. So then you see the length. In general, you can say that leaf blade is longer than the leaf sheath, and the top 4 leaves are almost equal in length. Top 4 leaves are almost equal in length. Now see, we will see the morphology of panicle and spikelet. So if I want to define panicle, it is terminal component of rice tiller is called panicle. Born on the uppermost node, the uppermost internode of the gum. It bears spikelets which develop into grains. So spikelets are the flowering structure which contain floret. Panicle base, you can see here in the panicle base kind of swelling is there. So this is also called as neck. Panicle base appears here like ring and used as a dividing point between come and panicle. So this is the end of come, end of stem, and beginning of the panicle. This neck part. So panicle base is called as the neck. Now you see here the structure of the panicle. So it is on the uppermost internode bears the panicle base, or nodal part is there on neck part, and then you see the flag leaf on the left side, and this is the central part is your panicle axis. The main branch or mother branch is your panicle axis, and then it may give rise to primary branches like tiller. You have seen seedling, mother plant gives tillers. So here also branching happens, and primary branch from the main axis, and then this primary branch can give to secondary branches, and then spikelets are born on the secondary branches. So here you can see on the top, you can see pedicel also, through which the spikelet is attached to the branch, pedicel. Panicle and spikelet continues. So panicle axis also, you see in this picture also, panicle axis, the mother axis, main axis is continuous and hollow except at node. It is just like come. In come also you see it was solid at the nodes. Similarly, this panicle is solid at the node where branches are born. This branches always born on the nodes. You see panicle pulvinus, like you have seen the sheath pulvinus. Here panicle pulvinus, the swellings at the panicle axis where the branches are born, referred as panicle pulvinus. Now you see secondary branches are also there which are born on primary branches in the panicle. So each node on the main panicle axis gives primary branches, which in turn bears secondary branches, and primary branches may be arranged singly or in pairs. There's no set pattern. They may be single, they may be in pair also. Panicles bear spikelets, most of which develop into the grain. So you can see that panicles are attached to the, so spikelets are attached on the panicle, on the branches, maybe directly on the primary branches or on secondary branches, depending upon the varieties. So spikelet is basic unit of inflorescence and panicle. So it is the basic unit or ultimate unit of inflorescence, because inflorescence is composed of spikelets. It consists of the pedicel and floret. So there are two parts basically in case of spikelet, of the pedicel and floret. So floret, you know, it is why it is not called as a flower. Why we call it floret? So actually there are some diminutives. Diminutives, do you know what is diminutive? Diminutive. In English grammar, you have one aspect that is known as diminutive. What is the meant by diminutives? D-I-M-I-N-I, diminutives, N-I-T-I-S. Meaning is that they are the smaller part. They are smaller part, smaller representative. For example, you have a compound leaf. In compound leaf, leaf is one, but you have several small leaves on one leaf. You see, you have seen many leguminous leaves, which are compound leaves. They have many leaves on one leaf. So those are not actually leaves. They are leaflets, you know, leaflets. So a smaller form of leaf is leaflet. Similarly, smaller form of drop Drop means bund, is droplet. Droplet or a smaller form of city, citadel. So these are diminutives, N-U-T-I-V-S, diminutives. So similarly, this is not the big flower, this is small flower, and there are many small florets. Each spikelet has a floret. So this is just like I can equate it to the compound leaf. So it consists of the pedicel and floret. So floret and pedicel, you can see this is floret. Certain length, up to certain length, spikelet is called as floret, and the base is your pedicel. So pedicel is also included in the spikelet, but floret is not including your this pedicel. Now, to be more precise, more clear, see the left picture, floral diagram of rice. So you see on the bottom, it is a rudimentary glume. So the spikelet includes on the bottom, the first part of the spikelet is rudimentary glume. On the right side, meaning is written. What is rudimentary glume? Laterally enlarged, lowermost part of the spikelet. It is the lowermost part of the spikelet, and at threshing, when you do the threshing, they are separated from the rest of the spikelet. Then you see after this, there is sterile lemma, and they are also called as empty glume. Empty glume, and there are two in number. You can see two in the number. So these are sterile lemma. In the right picture also, you can see sterile lemmas. So after rudimentary glume, you have empty glume or sterile lemma, which are two in number, and they are small bread-like projections attached to the floret. So they are towards the base. And then the third important part is receptacle. You see receptacle. Botanically, it is also called as rachila. It is also called as rachila. Rachila or rachila, whatever you call, is a small axis bearing single floret. So this is the base of the floret. Base of the floret. It is between the sterile lemmas and the floret. Rachila part. You can see rachila part. And then in the left picture, you can see the palea is a smaller one, and the lemma on the left side is bigger one. Palea and lemma, they cover the floret. They cover the floret, and this floret have inside a flower. These lemma and palea, these are glumes. They are separated by a structure called lodicule. Lodicule, you can see this is bilobed. There are two lodicules in the center, which help in the opening and closing of the palea and lemma. Two lodicules. And then you can see the flower structure, stamen, ovary is not shown here, but it is has two stigmas, and then ovule and so on. So now you see the left picture again, continue to see. It is written spikelet. The whole structure is spikelet from top to the bottom, which include from rudimentary glume up to the stamens or gynoecium, everything. But floret includes only this palea, lemma, and all other structures above it. Means spikelet is equal to floret plus rachila plus sterile lemma plus rudimentary glume. So that is the difference in floret and spikelet. By mistake, many times we say take spikelet and floret as same. So floret plus rachila plus sterile lemma plus rudimentary glumes makes your spikelet. See again this kind of thing, floret, the difference in floret and spikelet. The whole is spikelet, starting with pedicel, glumes, rachila, sterile lemma, and so on. So these are external to the floret. And in this, you see right glume is palea, which is smaller in size, and left one is lemma, which is bigger in size. And you see one more structure, apiculus, at the tip of the lemma. So the on formation will happen only on lemma, on formation will not happen in the part in the palea. But apiculus is the serrated region on the top, on the extreme top of the lemma and palea, apiculus. And you see structure of stamen, anther and filaments, and stigma. You see there are two feathery stigma here, and ovary has one ovule. Now, the rachila, sterile lemmas, and the rudimentary glumes all support the floret. These are the supporting structure, like he told about this auricus. The floret includes the lemma, palea, and the flower. So, floret includes lemma, palea, and the flower. The large protective gloom covering the floret is called as lemma, large one. Small one is palea. You can see in the picture. Now, both lemma and palea have ridges. Ridges means the raised structure, which are called as nerves. The lemma has 5, while palea has 3 nerves, means raised structure or ridges kind of structure. The middle nerve of the lemma can be smooth or hairy. Now you see awn and keel. The lemma has a constricted structure at the end called the keel. So you can see this keel region in the lemma. In some varieties, the keel is elongated into a thin extension called the awn, A-W-N. Now, see the flower. The floret contains a flower. The flower consists of a pistil, that is female organ, and 6 stamens. Remember, rice has 6 stamens. And stamens are made up of anther and filaments. Stamens have 2-celled anthers borne on slender filaments. The pistil contains 1 ovule and bears a double-plumed stigma on a short style. Style length is very short. You can see the real picture. These are real picture of rice grain. And you can see the color of the anther. Color of the anther is mostly yellow. Most of the varieties I have seen by dissecting them, and we find this yellow color of the anthers. You can see lodicule in vivo, this in the picture, in the live picture. This at the flower's base near the palea are 2 transparent structures known as lodicules. You have seen lodicules. Lodicules thrust the lemma and palea apart at flowering to enable the elongated stamens to emerge out of the open floret. Means the job of lodicule is in the opening and closing of the lemma and palea. The lemma and palea close after the anthers have shed their pollen. Now you see, again, this is to make you more clear about the picture of this floret and spikelet. And now rice grain, you know, these anthers will shed pollen grains. They will germinate on the feathery stigma, and pollen tube will be germinated, and it will reach the ovule and fertilize. And then the ovule will start developing, and part of the ovary will become part of the seed. That is pericarp. The outer layer of the ovary will enclose the ovule. So this is rice grain. The rice grain is ripened ovary with the lemma, palea, rachila, sterile lemma, and the awn firmly attached to it. Now rice hulls. What is included in rice hulls? The rice hull includes the lemma and palea. When you do the hulling or milling, hulling or husking, dehusking, husking, and their associated structures, the sterile lemmas, rachila, and awn. So all the external structure are part of the rice hull. So rice fruit is caryopsis, in which the single seed is fused with the wall, pericarp, of the ripened ovary. So it is mix of, you can say, ovary and seed, forming a seed-like grain. The caryopsis is enveloped by the lemma and palea. Among cultivars, the rice caryopsis varies widely in shape and size. The mature rice seed is harvested as a covered grain. Rough rice, I explained to you, which the caryopsis is enclosed. Now again, you see different parts. They are numbered. Number 1 is brown rice. Brown rice means external part have been removed. Hulling has been done. So number 2 is your palea, the small gloom. And number 3 is lemma, the bigger gloom. giving you on also. And number 4 is your rachila or rachila or receptacle, I think was the name. And number 5 is sterile grooves. And number 6 is rudimentary grooves and part of the pedicel. This is how you can see very clear the structure of rice grain. So most rice varieties are composed of roughly 20% rice hull or husk, 11% bran layers, and 69% starchy endosperm, also referred as total milled rice. Now you see the structure of the rice grain. I will also teach you the composition of rice grain later in subsequent lectures. Now you see very clear, this is very fantastic picture that will give you very clear idea about the structure of the rice grain. I have scanned several pictures, but I found this picture as the best one to get clarifications about different parts of the seed. So we can start from the bottom side. You can see the sterile lemma, rachila, and so on. These are the structure. And then you see at the top is on. Then lemma and palea, they are separated. They are 2 different blooms. Now you see the 3-layered structure. Pericarp, this is coming from the ovary, and seed coat, it is coming from the ovule. Nucellus and all internal parts are coming from the seed. It is only pericarp which is coming from the ovary side. So you see this pericarp, seed coat, and nucellus. They are one after the other. Outer side, outermost is pericarp, then seed coat, and then nucellus. And this seed coat is also made up of 3 different layers. I'm not explaining it here. So now pericarp, seed coat, nucellus, all they make caryopsis coat. This is called as caryopsis coat of bran layers or bran layers. Then you got one more layer, that is aileron layer. And inside the caryopsis coat or inside the nucellus, you got immediately after nucellus, you got aileron layer. And after aileron layer, as you move towards center of the seed inside, you find 2 kind of starchy endosperm. One is inner endosperm and sub-aileron layer, which is near the aileron layer. So this sub-aileron layer and inner endosperm, they make the starchy endosperm. So aileron layer plus starchy endosperm, they will make endosperm. They will make called as endosperm. And then on the lower side, ventral side of the seed, you can see it is embryo. And embryo have 4 or 5 different parts. One is scutellum. Scutellum, people call it, I will tell you later. One part is scutellum and epiblast, then plumule on the one side, then mesocotyle is in the middle of the 2, and then your radicle and coleorrhiza, etc. So this is how embryo looks in the seed. It is on the ventral side, and it is scutellum is, I think, equivalent to cotyledon of legume. I think I need to check it. And then your embryo, endosperm, and caryopsis, and your caryopsis coat. All these 3 will make caryopsis. Or you can say caryopsis is made up of 3 different units: caryopsis coat, endosperm, and embryo, making caryopsis. So this is very clear-cut picture about the structure of the rice grain. The dehulled rice grain is called caryopsis of brown rice because of 3 brownish pericarp layers that envelop it. So during the process of milling or polishing, people try to remove these 3 layers. Caryopsis coat. Next to the pericarp layers are the 2 tegmen layers and the aileron layers. Now you can see this picture, endosperm and embryo. The remaining part of the grain consists of endosperm and embryo. Endosperm provides nourishment to the germinating embryo. This embryo gets food from the endosperm during the germination. Embryo lies on the belly side of the grain or ventral side of the grain and enclosed by lemma. It is embryonic organ of the seed. The embryo contains the plumule, embryonic leaves, and the radicle, embryonic primary leaf. So this finishes this lecture, and now you can see some glossary. So I try to put some glossary. I have no time to read this, but this will be quite useful to you. Please try to read. Whatever morphological features we discussed, if you fail in any one, you can read this glossary. This will help you to understand everything. For example, I will read just auricle and ligule. Auricle here means, auricle, meaning of auricle is sickles, just like sickle. A pair of small ear-like appendages born at the base of the blade and usually arising at the sides where the ligule and the base of the collar are joined. This structure may not persist on the older leaves. So here function is not given. Suppose I want to define on. It is a filiform extension of varying length from the keel of the lemma. So this is always from lemma. Then blade, brown rice, caryopsis, coleorhiza, so on. Collar, comb. So epiblast, a small structure opposite to the scutellum in the embryo, sometimes considered to a rudimentary cotyledon. So epiblast is rudimentary cotyledon. It has no vascular tissues. You can read the hull, hilum, grain, internode, leaf sheath. Very good definitions. Mesocotyle. Mesocotyle is the internode between the scutellar node and the coleoptile in embryo. Then ilia, panicle. So all the terms related today we have seen are here. So it is just summary of the terms. Please read it one time, rudimentary scutellum. The portion of the embryo partly surrounding the embryonic axis containing oil and protein for the germinating plant. It serves as an absorbing organ to transfer nutrients from the endosperm to the young seed. So it is acting like a cotyledon. See, here synonymous is given as cotyledon. So scutellum of grasses or scutellum of rice is equivalent to the cotyledon of dicots or legumes, seed, spikelet, waxy endosperm, tiller. So I must thank you here, and I will request Vipin to stop the recording, and